Hi, I'm Dr. Boyce Watkins from Your Black World, and welcome to Dr. Boyce and Nomalanga. I'm here with Nomalanga Mhlauli-Moses, founder of HealthyBlackWoman.com. How you doing today, Noma?
I'm doing great, boys. How are you?
I'm doing really well. I'm getting over a cold. People can probably still hear me breathing funny a little bit, but I'm going to tough it out as I'm feeling good and I'm excited. It's a Monday anyway. Mondays are always fun. Now, you wrote this op-ed this week, and you put it on naturallymoi.com, and it really got my attention. And the title that you selected, you always pick these great titles. You're so good at that. And the title you picked is "Why We Love to See Black Women Snatching Each Other's Weaves and Wigs." I thought about that. And I was like, yeah, we do kind of like that. The whole country seems to like that, right? They seem to
Right.
get into this. And you think about it, you look at reality TV and you think about just kind of how ridiculous it is to see 35-year-old women acting like teenagers and fighting each other like little kids. But these are the shows that have the highest ratings. Lots of people of all backgrounds and genders seem to enjoy these shows. So it got my curiosity. Tell me about your article. Why did you write it, and what were you thinking?
I'll be honest and say that I don't really watch most of the shows that I'm writing about, but one that I occasionally watch is The Housewives of Atlanta. And that's what I had in mind when I was writing the article, and then said, well, why do we watch people snatching each other's, wigs and weaves? While that particular show doesn't do it all the time, it does happen occasionally. And I think, I went through the different reasons that people do. And the first reason I cited was, something, when I look at those women, I think to myself, I would never do that. And I thought maybe that's my reason, People do have a tendency of needing some kind of validation of their superiority. You look at somebody else and you can say, well, I would never do that, but look at them. I'm better than them. And, nobody, or let me not say not nobody, but people may not like to admit that, but that could be a valid reason for watching.
It's funny you say that, because if you think about that backlash, that huge backlash that there was when the show Sorority Sisters came on, it was so interesting, because you had all these, I think rightfully indignant black women around the country who were like, no, you're not going to disparage our sorority by putting us on
Right.
reality TV, having people making fools out of themselves, with our using our letters. And it was funny because a lot of these women, they love reality TV when it features somebody else. Like, they love to
Right.
watch Love and Hip Hop when
Right.
when you see people from the hood, just making fools out of themselves, or some suburban housewife making an ass out of herself. But when you're wearing pink and green and that's going down, then for some reason that's not so
That's
cool.
not
So
okay.
so you think so that does seem to lend credibility to your theory that certain people like it because they get to sort of almost watch the people. It's interesting. It's almost like they watch the people on the show, like almost like going to the zoo and you have a cage and you get to watch the tigers and the gorillas fight each other and stuff like that. Yeah, it almost seems like the same kind of spectacle,
It
right?
is. Yes. I think so. I
Interesting.
think so. Just
Interesting.
as long as that's not who, as long as it keeps reassuring you that that's not who you are.
So almost like WWE kind of entertainment for
Right.
women, or soap operas with more violence. Okay, so
Right.
now what else did you say in the article?
One of the other things which I said which was a little, I didn't like having to say it, but it is true, is for some people, they don't see anything wrong with that behavior. It's normal. And they're just watching something that doesn't feel abnormal to them, or doesn't feel like, wow, look at that, that's horrible. It's their daily life, and that's normalized for them. So they can relate to those characters, and they understand them, and people like to see people they can relate to.
Mm,
And then the other reason that I cited, which was similar to that reason, was sometimes it can be that you want to see people who look like you. And I actually used myself as an example. I said, I watched this show, How to Get Away with Murder, I watched several episodes of it when it still came on, but the whole time I was watching it, I felt like I was on this roller coaster. It moved so fast, and half the time I was so confused, but I just kept watching it and kept watching it and hoping it would get better. And I knew what my reason was. I love Viola Davis. And I absolutely love that they took a 40-something-year-old chocolate sister, put her on prime time, called her sexy, and gave her a lead role. I absolutely loved that. And the show actually did get better, but I knew what my motivation was. It wasn't because I was enjoying the show per se, but it was just that I was just loving seeing that woman on there.
Well, I think that's I think that's a great point. Because we know that a 40-year-old chocolate sister can be every bit as sexy as anything that we see on TV, if not more so. Right? As a black man, I can say that I've never been impressed with Hollywood's portrayal of beauty. It just seems strange. It's almost like they think that if you eat food, then there's something wrong with you. If you weigh more than 8 pounds 4 ounces, you're not supposed to be at your birth weight as a 25, 30-year-old woman. And it's something that I've always enjoyed the imagery of Hollywood to a point, but at the same time, there's never been anything appealing about it, to me. But as you mentioned, Viola Davis just kind of getting her sexy on, and not just being sexy, but or better yet, having a more colorful, very full version of what sexy means. Sexiness is to me, I think, is something that that really I think inspires a certain type of depth and complexity to it, right? Like, she's not sort of some dinky or dingy little, simple-minded pretty girl. She's this woman that's kind of got all these interesting dimensions to her, and that. Right. That's great to see, and I think what's unfortunate to me, though, is that it's so sad that we become entirely dependent upon white people to give us that imagery, right? To give us what we deserve and what we want as people of color. And that's why I encourage people to stop going to Hollywood or looking to Hollywood to give that to you, to feed that to you. They don't have to feed that to you. There are other places where you can get that. I mean, there are so many amazing web series online that don't get nearly very much viewership, but have really good production quality, feature all the stories that we really want to see, feature black people who look like us. That's what I watch. When I really want to watch, when I really want to get entertained, I go online and try to find, really good stuff that reflects who I am. I don't pay attention to Hollywood. Okay, now the next point that you mentioned is, you mentioned being bored.
Yeah.
Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, that was the last point. And I just said sometimes you do flip through channels and something catches your attention. I remember one time I watched a show of Oprah Winfrey, and she's like, one thing that always catches attention is sometimes you're flipping through the channels and then you get to Discovery, and there's animals and there's something interesting, and you just can't stop watching. But it was never your intention to watch it. And of course, I'm not saying that women, especially not black women, are like animals, but I'm saying sometimes something does catch your attention and then holds it. It makes you curious about what's going to happen next and next and next. And before you know it, you're watching. And then you're not really questioning what you're watching. So that does happen, I try to get a range of who these viewers are. And I think that kind of encompasses a lot of them.
Well, you know what? I want to confess this to you and anybody watching, and just to make it clear, when I watch those shows, I almost always enjoy them, and I'm never surprised when I do, because I know that these shows, they have people that understand the psychology of the viewer. They know what to do to get your attention. They know that sex and violence tend to grab the attention of human beings, no matter what context it's in. There's something that fascinates us about the creation of life or the destruction of life. So sex is the creation of life. Violence is the destruction of life. On various levels, right? And so they know what looks work. They know what colors work. They know how to lay the action out in a certain way. The formula is actually quite brilliant. And so, I kind of approach those shows, in the way I approach, like, chocolate. Right? I'm never going to sit here and pretend like I don't like chocolate. I'm never going to pretend like I don't eat chocolate. but I'm also never going to pretend like chocolate is good for me, or that eating as much chocolate as I want isn't going to make me a fat man or an unhealthy man, right? And so I think that that's where we have to kind of look at these shows is like, okay, yeah, they're good, they're enjoyable, but maybe there are other ways we can be entertained, without necessarily being sucked into this type of garbage all the time. Maybe there are ways that we can enjoy it a little bit while at the same time being fully aware and accepting of the fact that this is not necessarily good imagery of our people. The other thing that's interesting too is that sometimes people of color will see a show let's say Empire. Empire isn't reality TV, but it's kind of like scripted reality TV, and they're kind of blurred. It's all kind of the same. It's like basically Ratchet TV. Ratchet sells now, whatever. And sometimes we'll see a show like an Empire, and we'll think, oh, they made a show for us. when the show might not have been created for you. It might be about people that look like you, which make you want to watch, but it may be a show created for other people who have chosen people who look like you to behave in the way that they think you people act. Right? So there's a white lady in Nebraska who doesn't have any black friends, who maybe watches, Love and Hip Hop or whatever, and thinks, oh my God, look at what those people do. Right? And that's the thing. Sometimes the joke, we think that they're laughing with us and they're actually laughing at us. In a way, it makes you almost imagine, say 100 years ago, imagine a minstrel show taking place on stage, and there's a wealthy white man who's watching the minstrel show, because that's what they would do. They would do these shows for rich white people, right, in these fancy clubs. And so imagine if you're the busboy, you're the black kid who's working in your, waiting tables or you're bussing tables, and you see this going on. You're watching the show too. Right? Because you're excited for the black man on stage, because you're like, wow, he's doing well, he's making money. You're looking at the white man who appreciates, this black man's performance, and you're like thinking to yourself, maybe as a black person, oh my God, if I can get on stage too, they'll love me and pay me just like they're paying him. So maybe this is what I can do. After all, that's a reflection of me. I'm seeing me, and I'm internalizing this self-image that is being portrayed on stage, right? And that's what I think we end up seeing far too often in some of the worst reality TV, that, some little 12-year-old black girl is thinking, I want to be successful and famous because I want to grow up and be like Evelyn Lozada. So I'm going to start practicing now, so I'll be the ultimate ratchet bitch by the time I'm 21, 22 years old, and I'll be the biggest reality star in America, and I may even make me a sex tape, because that's my definition of being famous. That's what I'm seeing in myself. And I think, I don't think any smart person can kind of think about things on that level and realize and think that this is like healthy overall, right? But at the same time, I mean, it is what it is. It's here. It's life. But I encourage people to always remember there are a billion different ways to entertain yourself now. We have a million different entertainment options. And so if one kind of bothers you, never ever feel like you have to watch that show. There are lots of other things out there that you could be enjoying as well. That's my thought.
Yeah, of course, I agree with you. And, when I started writing the article, I deliberately started talking about, there's an excellent African author, Nigerian author called Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. And I talked about a TED Talk that she did called The Danger of a Single Story. And I'll quickly say one of the stories that she told. And she said that, she grew up pretty affluent by most people's standards. Her father was a college professor. Her mom was a senior administrator at the university that they were at. So she lived in this college community. And they had employees in their household, which is normal in most African countries to have, a maid, a gardener, and so forth. And she says there was this helper in the house, and his name was Fide. And she says, every time that she would waste food or do something that made her seem unappreciative, her mother would say to her, don't you do that? Don't you know that people like Fide, they don't have food. They don't have all these things that we have, and you're being wasteful. You're being unappreciative, or something to that effect. And she began to always see Fide as this poor person. And then she says one day they went to Fide's home, and it was a beautiful home. And the people were working, they had nice things, they had a great life. And she says it became confusing to her because she had only ever thought about one thing. about Fide was that he was poor, underprivileged, and of course his life must be horrible. So she was confused when she saw that he had a great life. And this has always stuck with me, and I use it a lot because that's what happens with a lot of American television, in my view, is we only see one story, and that's the dangerous part. Whether you're looking at Empire, whether you're looking at all the reality shows with the black women, I'm never going to say that it's horrible that they're showing those things, because those things do exist. There are people who snatch each other's wigs. There are rappers and so forth. The danger is not in putting it on TV. The danger is putting only that on TV or watching only that. That's where the danger lies. And I think we always have to make that distinction. It's not like people are making us look bad. There are people, unfortunately, who behave badly. And they're out there. I just think the danger is only showing that part. I think people should never even use the word Africa, because I already know people are going to generalize too much when they say Africa or Africans. But being a person who's from Africa, I've experienced that over and over again. When I look at American TV and I see what parts of Africa they show or what experiences of Africans they show, it's not a wonder people are shocked when they see me and I'm intelligent and educated and not poor, apparently. It's just that danger of that single story of only showing one part of a group of people. And I think that's where the work is. It's in diversifying what we see for ourselves, and for the media also needs to diversify what they show. That's where the danger is.
Well, I think you make a great point, and that's a great point for us to finish on, because you're right. It's the diversity issue, more so than the fact that they're showing a certain kind of story.
Right.
You can't focus on that as the only story, and unfortunately, what happens is that a lot of our kids, they see that one story and they think that that's their one model and opportunity for success, and that's not what we want. Well, thank you very much, Nomalanga Mhlauli-Moses. I appreciate your time.
Thank you, boys.
Yes, everybody, this is Nomalanga Mhlauli-Moses. She is the founder of HealthyBlackWoman.com. I am Dr. Boyce Watkins, and this is Dr. Boyce and Nomalanga. Until we meet again, please stay strong, be blessed, and be educated. We are gone. Peace.